let's begin with who you are, how you came to prominence. Why is it that people know who you are?
Probably the first thing I did was get interviewed by the police for saying that transitioning children is abuse on Twitter.
Okay. But this has just been made illegal in Britain, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's relatively, isn't it? Because people are going to... Basically, if your parents wish to allow the medical establishment to abuse you, they can give consent.
Right.
So now they can... If you're a Munchausen's by proxy parent, you can still go ahead and transition your kids.
I can't help but notice you're not varnishing any of this.
No. I do think it's really monstrous, actually, to alter kids' bodies. So I am going to use relatively plain language for that. But yes, so that it is now very difficult to do that. If you're a 15-year-old, you can't allow the medical establishment to abuse you. So I just tweeted a few things. I got interviewed under caution. That went into the Times. I was already relatively well known. I'd been on Mumsnet for a long time as Posie Parker. My real name's Kellie-Jay. Just speaking out, because I came across this stuff in 2015, realised that you weren't allowed to talk about women without qualifying what a woman was, and you couldn't talk about transitioning kids. And so that's all I wanted to talk about.
Right, because as I'm no expert on this, but as I understand it, the drugs that puberty blockers and whatever hormone replacement therapy and all that sort of thing, as I understand it, it's pretty much untested, and the results and the long-term consequences aren't well known. Is that correct?
No, it's almost worse than that, because it has been tested. So for different bits of the population. So in America, there was a big scandal about puberty blockers because they were giving doctors kickbacks to the tune of sometimes about $1.6 million. And they were prescribing it to men that they knew would die with prostate cancer as opposed to of prostate cancer, older men. And those men were then dying of heart failure as a side effect. So we know already that it's a little bit of a tricky drug. But yeah, it's totally untested on kids. It's insane. It causes infertility. It causes a lack of sexual function. So basically it renders little boy children eunuchs. And they're not even chemically castrated because they don't get to a point of even fancying anyone.
They don't get the sort of sexual maturity that a regular adult does.
No, so you never fancy anyone, you never have a sexual feeling, none of that. That just disappears with that.
I mean, it makes you wonder how this is legal in the first place, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's
this is insane.
Properly insane. So you render a child's body more, well, I don't know what you render it actually, because it just remains in an infant state in adulthood. So you render it whatever we'd like to call that. So it looks less like the sex that you are, but it doesn't work as any sex. Right. It's really like crazy.
Well, it seems like some sort of Frankenstein-style experiment, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's gross.
And I mean, I've heard that this affects like bone development and the increase of chance of getting cancer and things like this, and all of these terrible side effects. And you never hear any of this in the media. You only hear the sort of constant praise that comes from the braveness of transitioning. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, it does sound quite brave if the consequences of this dire. I mean, God.
Yeah.
But
what I think about the whole topic is that this celebration just masks questioning. That's all that it does. But I've no idea how we got here. I can't imagine the first person who thought it was a good idea. And any parent that hasn't researched, I barely gave my kids Calpol unless I really, really had to. Because I just sort of think that bodies are supposed to do certain things. You're supposed to get a little bit hot so you can fight off infection. And weirdly, you're supposed to go through puberty so you can live a happy adult life. There is a purpose to it. Evolution doesn't get things like that wrong. It's quite important.
Let's move on to your most controversial position on what is now politics, the definition of what a woman is.
Terrible, hateful. It is actually Posie Parker's definition if you look on Twitter. Anytime someone, I'm very proud of that. So anytime somebody says a woman is an adult human female, you'll see a trans activist say, that's Posie Parker's definition, as if it didn't exist before I invented it.
As if it wasn't just what was in the dictionary for hundreds of years.
Yeah, funny that. I knew when I came up with the billboard, I knew that woman was the thing that they were trying to take. Ultimately, if you can't say the word woman and it means adult human female, then you can't really use the word woman effectively in any context whatsoever.
Or you can use it in any context and it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
But this is the point, isn't it? Because the definition that they replace it with is a woman is anyone who identifies as a woman, which is a self-referential circular definition, which leaves you with an uncompleted sentence, which means that there has no content at all. Whereas adult human female is an essential definition. It's got, you have to be an adult, you have to be human, you have to be female. These are all something different to the word woman. Therefore, it actually makes sense, which is presumably why the English language used it for such a long time.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've been deplatformed from everywhere pretty much because of this commitment to the essential definition of the word woman, right?
Yeah, real hateful. I'm such a hateful bigot for that.
But what do they say when they deplatform you, or do they just get rid of you and just?
Change.org sent me their terms and conditions, which basically said I was hateful. They said, "Oh, you can't." So I'm not even allowed to sign a petition on change.org. I'm totally banned from their platform.
I just don't know what to make of it. Because, I mean, I've been deplatformed from plenty of places in my time, but at least I was using racy language. Right. At least I was being mean on the internet. But what have you done?
Well, I guess it is mean if you say to a 54-year-old bloke who was Dave last week that he's not a woman, then that is a really mean, terrible, nasty, practically violent thing to do. But I'm also banned from Mumsnet. I can't make things on Teespring. I can't make things through Awesome merchandise. I'm banned from advertising anything on Instagram and Facebook. I'm currently on my third Facebook 30-day ban. I'm banned on Twitter completely. Although that's not a bad thing. What a waste of time.
Twitter's awful.
Horrible place.
Yeah. It really does something bad to your brain.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to happen from I guess we can say the establishment's adoption of this bizarro definition of what a woman is? What do you think the long-term consequences are going to be, and what do you think we can do to stop it?
Long term, I genuinely don't think it can last, because I think it's a lie. And I think that eventually it will put its nasty little feelers out on so many people that people will begin to basically refuse to accept it. But what we do have right now is we have a man who's the CEO of Edinburgh Rape Crisis, who calls himself Myrtle, who is an Indian man, who calls himself a woman and a mom. And he basically lied to get to start to work for the Rape Crisis Centre, working with victims, I understand. And he basically got his foot in the door, and now he's the CEO, and he shouldn't have got the job anyway, because it should be, under the Equalities Act, it should be sex exempt. They should have used the sex exemption, so it should have just been for women. And you've got women defending him. So I don't know if it gets too much worse than that. I mean, teachers in schools telling kids that they can choose their gender. So I think that's where we are. How worse it can get, I don't know. More rapists in women's prisons, maybe.
We've covered this ourselves, actually. This is something that happens, isn't it? I mean, do you think we're going to end up with trans prisons specifically?
Well, I don't know. I think that's a step too far to lock them all up. But
that's not what I'm saying. No. You know what I mean.
Sorry.
You know what I mean.
Do I think there should be a third space? I think that's what campaigners should campaign for, if anything. Personally, I think that if we just stop people, I don't know, if we made prisons safe for all men, do I think a really effeminate, quite weak man, maybe with mental health issues, is any safer in a men's prison than somebody who calls himself a woman? No, I don't. Do we have separate spaces for those men? No, we don't. So I think when you've got all types of, I think suicide is quite is quite bad in men's prisons. I think suicide generally is pretty bad in male populations. And so I don't see why just because a man sticks on a dress, whether he deserves any more rights as a man in our society than any other man.
But if women have more rights than men, then you can see the appeal, can't you?
Which rights do we have?
The rights to sort of exclusive spaces and preferential treatment and things like this. And I think it's fair to say that men do have a kind of soft spot for women and want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and in a way that they don't to other men. Is that fair?
Well, that's because you know other men.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, and that's why women don't give the benefit of the doubt to other women.
Well, that's probably true. I mean, I'm very familiar with the totally vile side of women, in particular feminists. Most of the things that are said about me online are said by other women.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. Yeah. I think what happened is men really did occupy the corridors of power.
Yes.
And obviously that needed some sort of breaking. Whether that meant that women then should have every single golf club as like 50-50 or whatever, I think that's a bad idea. Do I think girls should be in Boy Scouts? Absolutely not. I think both boys and girls, men and women, deserve space away from each other, as long as it's not in some sort of place where you can hold influence and power, and then it's not a good thing. So I understand the train of thought where men are like, well, this is what you asked for. I do get it. I just don't see that. I look at my daughter and I think, did she ask for that? Did she ask for men in her toilets? No, she didn't. Did some women who decided that there was no difference between men and women, is this what they asked for? Is this the logical conclusion of their activism? I think probably it is.
It's weird that we've entered into a position where like everything is hypersexualized. The sort of propriety around gender has been abolished, and there seems to be the incredible risk of personal reputational destruction at every turn. And it's like, right, good luck, kids. And I'm just, maybe we need some boundaries. Maybe I don't want to argue for social conservatism because I'm not that kind of person normally, but come on, there's got to be some limit, right?
Yeah, I think so. My son's applied to a university, and on their Instagram feed is promoting sex work as a choice for students. Unreal. I think they should just be honest and say prostitution.
Which is what it is.
Yeah. And I wrote on LinkedIn, I wrote to the dean and I was like, you're advertising this it's a student union, but it's using, it's your university's name. Yeah. She just blocked me. Blocked me. But that sort of thing is everywhere.
But that implies that the dean of the university thinks that becoming a prostitute as a student is just morally neutral.
Well, with the prostitution argument, so I've heard it argued that actually girls go into at university because they really need the money and they're really poor. And I'm thinking, well, boys don't do it. So what are boys doing to get money then? Are they pimping out the girls? I don't think so. So what is it? Why are we saying that girls have no responsibility for these sort of choices? I really think they do. I read a feminist who sort of said, all I thought when I was growing up, this is such a lie anyway, but all I thought when I was growing up that if you wanted money, you had to be a prostitute. I just thought, nobody thought that. I don't know anybody who ever thought that. My parents used to say, you'll be working in McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly,
if you didn't work at school.
Not you'll be a whore.
Well, tacked you out, Kellie-Jay.
So since we're on the subject, let's talk about OnlyFans. How do you feel about OnlyFans?
I think it's I've never been on the platform. I only know about...
Really? You don't have an OnlyFans?
I only know about, is it Richard Madeley's daughter and the rugby guy? What my husband mentioned that they'd been in the news for it. And is it sort of... is it a bit like webcam-y type stuff?
It's like a sort of Patreon for porn, it seems. So women upload videos and pictures of themselves and men pay to see them.
How do I feel? I feel it's probably not. I feel it's a reflection of a very unhealthy society. If you're an adult, I do think it's harmful. I do think it's overwhelmingly harmful, and I think it will bite everybody in the arse. But I don't know what you can do about it, really.
Well, I mean, neither do I. But I'm getting really concerned about it because because of the nature of the internet and the fact that it's open to everyone, a lot of these young women are making unbelievable sums of money. Sort of like 20 grand a month and things like this. You see now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, okay. So OnlyFans.
What do you have to do?
Exactly. You see, right now you can see why they're doing it, and it's like, okay, that's good for them, I guess. But it also is deforming the way relations work, because I mean, one of the traditional ways that men would impress women and get women to be interested in them is by working hard and earning lots of money. But what guys are earning 20 grand a month? How can you compete with this sort of thing? And then it's not just that; it's also the constant validation and complimenting, and the attention that the young woman is getting, because these girls are 18, 19, so it's not like they have great life experience on how relationships work. And so, in the same way that I think that constant access to porn is actually deforming men's expectations of women, I suspect that OnlyFans is probably deforming women's expectations and understanding of men. And the problem, I think, not only does this, the eternal problem of relationships breaking down in society, but this I don't think this lasts forever for women either.
Oh, no.
So,
there's no OnlyFans for 50-year-old or women. Well, there probably is a niche.
There probably is, yeah. But the point is, if when a woman gets to her mid-30s, the 20-year-olds are then going to be taking all of the money, and then so she's left with no income, no understanding of how to form relationships, no relationship, no children, no particular prospects, and it seems like a way of kind of setting them up for failure. I
mean, you say good for her, and I just wonder how good for her it is, even in the moment. Yeah. So even when you're earning that 20,000, I mean, can you really have proper, solid self-respect? Is your self-esteem really intact if it does take constant validation?
Yeah.
And are we just in a real disassociative state where actually the person on screen is the person you... can that really be who you are if you're delivering a performance? And so I do think it's wholly damaging, just generally, to have that sort of narcissistic validation. Even if you think you're the empowered one, somebody is actually giving you money to do whatever they ask you to do on OnlyFans. I'm not actually sure if you're really in the powerful position there. And maybe, I don't know how I feel about women earning a lot of money. I certainly would like to be one of them. And I don't know if women are necessarily attracted just to men with money. I think it's more of a status.
Sure.
It's more of a certainty of a guy would... Although I don't know how I would have felt if my husband had less than me when I met him.
Right. And no. Let's pause on that moment for a bit, because it's true. It's true that women want men who earn more than them. That's real.
Yeah, I don't think it's a conscious thing though, because clearly you want.
And I'm not saying it's bad either. I'm not
it's
saying
a reflection
it's bad.
of. Well, if my husband was an incredible artist, right, who was revered but didn't necessarily sell his works of art for a lot of money, I think I'd still find that attractive, because that's a status thing. So it's not just, I don't think it's necessarily the money in your back pocket.
Sure. It's just, I think that commonly it's just easily reflected in earnings.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But I agree with you. I think it is about status. But this kind of leads back to the thing that society should put aside for men. And this attempt by feminists to essentially say, well, men and women should earn the same. I don't know if that's good for women. I don't think that women even want that, really. I mean, I don't think women should be underpaid because they're women or anything like that. But just, there is a consequence to saying, well, the women will earn the same as men. It's like, yeah, but one of the things that a lot of women find attractive about men is their earning power and and the status that comes with that. And that's something that women want, And so one thing that, again, myself and John, we're always talking about things like this, because you always find articles where the woman's like, I earn 6 figures a year. I am the CEO of this company and I can't get a date. And it's like, that's because you're the husband. You're not the wife, you are the husband. And no man is looking for a husband, he's looking for a wife. But the feminists at no point were like, what is it that men deserve? What dignity do they deserve? What should be reserved for them? And this attack on, the man's earning capacity and like, oh, look, only a third of CEOs are men. It's like, yeah, it should probably be women, and it should probably be lower. Like it's like women don't want to work 70 hours a week and actually earn that much money.
And often aren't single focused either.
Exactly, but men often are, because they're more likely to be autistic, frankly.
No, you're right.
I know, and it's weird to say, and it's weird to kind of have to appeal to women to say, well, look, don't men deserve something? Because you make it very difficult for them, and in turn, that makes it very difficult for women to find a suitable husband.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at Lotuseaters.com.